You were there on stage along with a dozen other MPs and opposition leader and MLAs when this attack happened. How do you react?
I'm utterly shocked. It was a completely peaceful rally for which all permissions had been obtained duly. The KPCC president, who is himself an MP, had spoken. The leader of the opposition had just begun his speech. Everyone was listening quietly and calmly to what was being said. Suddenly, without provocation, a tear gas shell explodes behind the stage. Our eyes and nose and skin and lungs start smarting. There is smoke in the air. Water cannons are being fired on the peaceful audience. It's unbelievable. And what is shocking is not even basic police procedure of issuing any warnings, either written or through a megaphone, were even adhered to. There was no warning issue. It just happened without any justification. It's clear that what we are witnessing in Kerala is the absolute rule of the lawless, who've been given full freedom to assault the law-abiding. I've called the DGP of police. I've complained in strongest language. He has promised an immediate investigation. But we don't know what that investigation is going to find, because no one can give any rational reason as to why 18 tear gas shells have to be fired on on a peaceful demonstration. The contempt for democracy on the part of the Kerala authorities is truly shocking.
And the reason why you took this protest was basically your workers were being attacked mainly by the CPIM workers. That was the allegation, and also by some of the staff.
No, also by the police. The police have been assaulting our workers without justification, again without provocation, and therefore the protest was against police brutality. They decided to confirm that our protest was totally justified by their own behavior.
We can show you the visuals here. Tear gas shells are still being used on these protesters, and not just that. The tear gas shells they started using when the leaders were on stage. Leaders like THAROOR, VD Satheesan, Ramesh Chennithala, all of them were on stage when the tear gas shells were used on these protesters. Water cannons. While the leaders were speaking on stage, the workers went near the barricade. They went on a push and pull with the police. So that is when I'll show you this road right here outside the DGP's office. This is the area which had been barricaded. Now here we can see that the workers were here in this road. That's when the water cannons were used, and not just water cannons, tear gas shells were used on these protesters. The leaders were talking on stage. We can see that vehicle which they have arranged as a stage. Opposition leader VD Satheesan was speaking when this attack was on. Tear gas shells were used on these protesters, even water cannons. So while the leaders were talking on the other side of the barricade, we saw that the workers trying to push the barricade and entered into a tiff with the police. That is when they resorted to the use of water cannons, but MLAs and MPs were on stage, but the Kerala police just went ahead and used water cannons and tear gas shells on them. This entire stretch in the road, we were all being affected. None of us were able to open our eyes. That's the effect this tear gas shells has. So none of us were able to open our eyes. We had to run to the other side. Now, even after that, the protesters, we can see from the visuals that water cannons of water have been used till this part from that barricade area. But still the protesters have not completely gone from here. They are regrouping and coming back. Several rounds of tear gas shells have been used, and it had been used onto this crowd. We can also see that some instances of stone pelting also that has been happening. We see that the workers are there near the barricade. That they have not gone back. They are regrouping, and the protest is here. But this is something which we have not noticed in the entire protest that has been having, because this is they are dealing with a very strong hand. The police is dealing it with a very strong hand. MLAs, MPs were on stage, but at that time they resorted to the use of tear gas. So that is something which we have not witnessed while we were covering the N number of protests. So this is something which the Congress will also take very seriously, because opposition leader was speaking on stage. SHASHI THAROOR MP, Ramesh Chennithala, former opposition leader and MLA, was on stage. SUDHAKARAN MP, all these leaders and a dozen other MLAs were on stage when the police resorted to this kind of attack. There has been several injuries. As we said, the tear gas shells, the rounds of tear gas shells that were used, even we were unable to breathe. We couldn't even open our eyes. So that was the situation here on the ground.